All right, shalom, 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 peace. Welcome to another episode of Feed the Lions, Blade Runner Edition. This is your brother Mouth I acquire first name IQ. It's all the same. Today we're going to tackle, and more than likely in the future, uh, so-called Bible contradictions. This is ammunition for the atheists. This is ammunition for the Pan-Africanists, the Kemetic community, anybody who despises the word of the Most High, that thinks that they've done some research and figured out why shouldn't you believe in the Bible, why you should stay away from that book. They always talk about the Bible is tampered with. You've heard those particular excuses when you're bringing the knowledge of the gospel to individuals, or there's a particular dispute, debate, whatever the case may be, and somebody says the Bible's been tampered with. Man, and messed that up. And here's an example. Here's a verse, and it may look on the surface level to be contradictory. It may look like there's an error with the script. Um, Not all the time that's the case, and many a times it's just a matter of researching, precepting, and understanding the context of the word of the Lord. So on my portions of for the next few weeks, we're gonna me in particular gonna attack, not necessarily attack, address some of the quote unquote Bible contradictions that have came up today. For those that read the scriptures, for those who may have encountered this particular question, maybe stumbled at it, maybe didn't have the understanding, maybe you do, I don't know. But brothers and sisters, to make sure that we stand strong in defending the word of the Most High, there's a particular controversy with King Ahaziah and his age and when he began to reign. So we're going to address that. Was he 42 years old? Was he 22 years old? We see two different accounts in the book of Kings, and we see an account in Chronicles that may look to be contradictory, but is it really? Let's look at it and let's find out. All right. Want to give all praise, honor, glory to the Most High, Yahweh Shai. Prayerfully, everybody's well, man. Do me a favor, do your brother this solid, man. Make sure that you wipe your feet when you came up in here, man. Hit that like button. Share this information as well. All right. Because many in our community, man, are looking for answers. They're looking for a reason to believe in and read the word of the Lord. But this may be that one thing that they just didn't get and made them say, I can't do it. Something ain't right with that book. Right. So, Lord willing, this will be edifying, and we'll get to it. All right, let me share my screen. And first off, let's start off with Proverbs. Book of Proverbs 25 and the second verse. All right. It says, "It is the glory of the Most High to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter." So, anytime that we find ourselves in a position of reading the scriptures and we can't figure it out, know that the Most High may have concealed some things. I don't proclaim to know everything. There ain't a man on this earth that can say they know everything about the scriptures and whatnot, man. If you vainly are proclaiming to know that, man, God help you. Because the Most High said that he hasn't revealed all of his works unto man. I believe that's in the Apocrypha. Uh, Let me make sure. Let me get that in the Apocrypha. Salaki real quick. Can't remember the scripture off the top of my head, but I know it is Salaki. I could have sworn. Yeah, 42:17. Here we go. It says, "The Lord hath not given power to the saints to declare all his marvelous works, which the Almighty Lord firmly settled, that whatsoever it might be established for his glory." So there's certain things that are reserved and not revealed, so that the glory of the Most High, Yahweh Shai, will be established for him and him only. So nobody knows it all. All right. The Lord hath not given power to the saints to declare all his marvelous works. But what he has revealed is what we deal with, right? So let's open up. I got a little PowerPoint I want to share. All right. And we'll get right to it, man. So here we go. King Ahaziah, right? And there's a particular controversy, like I said, regarding the age of when he began to rule. Let's look at it right here. All right. So, how old was he when he began to reign? So, especially back in the days, man, in the 90s, early 2000s, in particular, with our camp, Sons of Jacob, when we were out in Leimert Park, man, that was like a hub in LA for Black culture, right? You get the artists out there, and you get the Rastafarians is out there, the 5%ers is out there, the Muslims is out there. Of course, the Israelites, we were out there. That was our mainstay. We were the staple as far as street teaching is concerned in that park. And we would encounter everybody. We would encounter, the Christians, the Catholics. I mean, we would encounter them all. And many times that, they would try to, say the 5%ers or the Muslims or somebody, they would try to throw a little monkey wrench in the game and say, hey, well, what about Second Chronicles 22 and 2 and that king? Was he 42 or was he 22? Well, we got to search out a matter to get the answer, right? So let's look at it in the scriptures. We'll open up with Second Chronicles 22, right? And we'll read 1 and 2. Now it says, and then the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, his youngest son, king in his stead. For the band of men that came with the Arabians to the camp had slain all the elders. So Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, reigned. Verse 2, it says, 42 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign. And he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, right? So in the account of Second Chronicles, we have him being 42, right? Now, Second Kings, chapter 8, and verse 26, they have here. Well, we'll read 25 and 26. In the 12th year of Jeroboam, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, did Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, begin to reign. 22 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri. So, we just seen two different accounts. Oh, snap. What are we going to do? Right? Oh, snap. Was he 22? Was he 42? Right? Let me switch my angle so I'm off the screen. I just want y'all to see the word. Okay. 22, 42. What do we make of this? You dig what I'm saying? So yeah, on the surface level, it's going to look like this is a problem. Okay. Now, here's a small chart when we're looking at historically who we're dealing with. And it's very important for you brothers and sisters to know the history of our nation and to know these particular kings. Will it be hard to memorize? I'm not saying you got to have all these memorized, but you should have a reference to where you can look at all of the kings of Israel, all of the kings of Judah, and who they were, right? So you can see under their reign, Jerome or Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, the husband of Athaliah. And now you have in succession his son Ahaziah. This is who we're addressing. And then we also have Athaliah. She was looked at as a queen ruler over Judah when Jehoram passed away and before Ahaziah took the throne, right? So when you look at even on this chart, in this particular chart, you can't see it on here, but all the light areas, it indicates all these rulers were wicked. The light gray areas, they were somewhat, they were kind of half and half, and in the dark gray were righteous. All right. So this is the era that we're talking about. These three particular characters, not characters, but historical figures in our scriptures. Salaki. But in order for us to get the understanding, right? Before I get back over here, we got to go back. We got to go back some, right? And we're going to begin in reading in context from Second Chronicles chapter 21. We can't just jump to chapter 22 and then say, oop, and then go to first, Second Kings chapter 8 and say, huh, see, caught you. Y'all book is off. Okay, now let's begin at Second Chronicles chapter 21. And we're gonna start at let's start at verse 5. All right. That says Jehoram was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. Now, it's important. Take your notes. Make sure you understand how old they were when they began to reign, how long they reigned, because this all brings us to a strong conclusion to understand how old was Ahaziah when he began to reign. Okay. Verse 6, and he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, like as did the house of Ahab, for he had the daughter of Ahab to wife, and he wrought that which was evil in the eyes of Yahweh. So we're seeing Jehoram married the daughter of Ahab, and Ahab was known for much wickedness. This is the husband of Jezebel, and we know that history of how wicked she was, how wicked Ahab was. And here we go with Jehoram marrying into a bloodline of wickedness and the spirit of wickedness. And what did he do? He carried on, this time in the southern kingdom. All right. Verse 7. Howbeit Yahweh would not destroy the house of David because of the covenant that he had made with David, and as he promised to give a light to him and to his sons forever. So we see that although there was a wicked king in the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah, the Most High's covenant that he made with David, that he would be a light to him and his sons forever, that would not be diminished. Right? So the Most High is not a man that he should lie. He was going to continue on in carrying out this particular light that was promised unto David and a covenant, like the scripture say, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, so forth and so on. In Genesis 49, this is what was being established. Okay. So now when we're getting into understanding why this was important, now we can understand a little bit as to the bloodline of David continuing on. All right. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. In you know what? I'm gonna just open up the second one over here, so I ain't gotta keep going back and forth. Let's look at Second Kings, and I want to go to chapter 7. Chapter 7, and what do I want to see? Slacky. Let me see if that's the one I want. It might be. Oops. Slacky, real quick. I'm trying to find the exact scripture. I think this is the one I want. 1 Kings 11. We'll read 35 and 36. It says, but I will take the kingdom out of thy son's hands and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto his son will I give one tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen to put my name there. So this is verse 37 as well. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shalt be king over Israel. So we're just saying that the covenant that the Most High made, with David, even through the fall of Solomon, was to maintain a light within Israel. The covenant was going to be made that the rulership and the throne would remain with him, right? I quoted Genesis 49. So like, I'm gonna get back to the actual addressing of the scripture, Second Chronicles 22 and 2 Kings 8. But just showing this here too, Genesis 49 and 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Speaking about the prophecy of Ahaziah, the scepter being the symbolization of rulership, would not depart from Judah. Judah would be the kingly tribe coming from Christ, him being king of the Jews, so forth and so on, right? So getting back to Second Chronicles, uh, 21, right? Picking it up again in verse 7, because the Most High made the covenant that David would be a light, that the scepter wouldn't depart. There was going to be an aspect of mercy and a changing from this wicked king to a righteous king going to be taken over. All right. So look at this. Eventually, I should say. But let's read this and continuing on. Verse 7. Howbeit, the Most High Yahweh would not destroy the house of David because of the covenant that he made with David, and as he promised to give a light to him and to his sons forever. In his days, the Edomites revolted from under the dominion of Judah and made themselves a king. Then Jehoram went forth with his princes and all his chariots with him, and he rose up by night and smote the Edomites which compassed him in, and the captains of the chariots. So the Edomites revolted from under the hand of Judah unto this day. The same time also did Libnah revolt from under his hand, because he had forsaken Yahweh, power of his fathers. What do we learn from this particular message? Is that when Israel is not in order and we're not fearing the Most High and ruling under the manners of righteousness, aka the law, statutes, and commandments, and having this heathen under subjection, when we're not in order, they see the weakness and they immediately go buck wild and revolt. If we want rulership and dominion, if we want to be able to have servants and handmaids and rule with the rod of iron and have power over the nations and so forth and so on, we've got to get it together as a nation, right? So when we're in rebellion, there is no containing the nations, man. They're going to be running wild and amok in the earth just as they're doing right now. As soon as Esau saw weakness within the kingdom and saw that we were not in order, he went wild and said, you know what, we're revolting. We ain't being under the hand of these people no more. We're going to incite riotous behavior, and we're going to rebel against these black noble rulers over us and Hispanic rulers over us. In today's terms, I should say, black and Hispanics, Native Americans. All right, let's move on. Verse 11, moreover, he made high places in the mountains of Judah and caused the inhabitants of Jerusalem to commit fornication and compel Judah thereof too. So not only do we see aspects of rebellion within the kingdom of Judah, but then we see in that he created altars and high places of worship so that spiritual fornication, idol worship, and so forth and so on can be committed within Jerusalem. This wasn't necessarily saying he made everybody, commit acts of fornication according to Leviticus 28. He made, everybody commit incest and sodomy and bestiality and everything else. Those are all elements of fornication that we read in Leviticus, the 18th chapter. No, we're talking about spiritual fornication. That's a whole nother topic. You can read about that in Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th chapter. So he compelled Israel to sin. Talking about Jehoram, right? Verse 12. And there came a writing to him from Elijah the prophet, saying, thus saith the Most High Yahweh, power of David thy father, because thou hast not walked in the ways of Jehoshaphat thy father, nor in the ways of Asa king of Judah, but has walked in the way of the kings of Israel. So notice the influence that his wife had on him. Wife came from the northern kingdom, daughter of Ahab, wicked as hell. And now Elijah is rebuking Jehoram, telling him, because you want to act like the northern kingdom and you see they wicked as hell, the idol worship, the sodomite priesthoods and all kind of stuff going on up there. You want to rule like them, and you don't want to carry on like the legacy of the kings of Judah. What's going to happen to them? It says, but thou hast walked in the ways of the king of Israel, and hast made Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to go a whoring, like to the whoredoms of the house of Ahab, and also hast slain thy brethren of thy father's house, which were better than thyself. See, brothers, side note on your marriages, relationships. This is why in Proverbs 31 with what's the brother's name? Let me I don't want to misquote it, but Proverbs 31, where the name is on the tip of my tongue. Let me look it up real quick. Lemuel, the king Lemuel, when his mother told him, "Give not thy strength over the women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings." Yeah, brothers have to maintain a masculine alpha persona spirit within your homes. Your women cannot be leading you, telling you what to do, and telling you how you should be ruling your home. If it's not in righteousness, because the scriptures do say, "Be thou continually with the man who thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord." That's for you sisters to make sure that you're vetting the men that you're dealing with before you commit yourselves to them, right? I don't want to turn this into a marriage thing. See that your brother could go off on a tangent on many things, but my mind gets to moving, right? But nonetheless, this is a lesson within itself, a lesson within a lesson. Jehoram, married to Athaliah, wicked daughter of Ahab of the northern kingdom, right? Clearly, she had influence on him because he started ruling after the ways of his father-in-law, who had already been smoked for ruling over Israel in wickedness and provoking Israel into wickedness. His former mother-in-law had the priest killed. And he says that's the example that he wants to rule in. Let's move on. Behold, with a great plague will Yahweh smite thy people and thy children and thy wives and all thy goods. See, all the people ended up having to suffer the consequences of Jeroboam's wickedness. A great plague was going to come, right? And thou shalt have great sickness by disease of thy bowels until thy bowels fall out by reason of sickness day by day. So, key point, verse 15. It says that he is going to be stricken with a great sickness and disease of thy bowels until his bowels fall out by reason of sickness day by day. That's important. Remember that, okay? Day by day. Continuing on. Moreover, the Most High Yahweh stirred up against Jehoram the spirit of the Philistines and of the Arabians that were near the Ethiopians, and they came up into Judah and break into it, and carried away all the substance that was found in the king's house, and his sons also, and his wives. So there was never a son left save Jehoahaz, the youngest of his sons. So not only was Israel plagued with sickness and jacked up, his household was plagued with sickness and jacked up, and the Most High stirred up the spirit of the Philistines and the Arabians to attack Israel while we was down. And Jehoram's house got raided, ramshacked. Everybody got jacked up and carried out all the substance. Only one left was his youngest of sons, Jehoahaz. Continuing on. And after all this, Yahweh smote him in his bowels with an incurable disease. And it came to pass that in the process of time, after the end of 2 years, another key point, mark that down. After the end of 2 years, his bowels fell out by reasons of sickness. Remember, the plague was going to hit him until his bowels fell out. Day by day, he would be continually getting sick. So it took 2 years for him to fully succumb to his disease and illness. All right. It says, and his people made no burning for him like the burning of his fathers. 32 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years and departed without being desired. Howbeit, they buried him in the city of David, but not in the sepulchre of kings. What does this mean? All right. Now, going back, I highlighted 3 particular verses that I want to make sure everybody acknowledges. Number 1 was in verse 12, where the judgment and the prophecy of Elijah rebuking and condemning Jehoram and his rulership and his penalty. That was one thing, right? Verse 13 is acknowledging what his sin was. Verse 14 was the judgment of what the Most High did. Okay. Now, verse 18 I highlighted as well. He got hit with an incurable disease. Now, I charted it out for everybody so you can take a screenshot, whatever. Go back, listen to it. This is important. It says, so what have we learned so far? The house of Jehoram is destroyed. The children of Israel are plagued with sickness and conquered by multiple nations. Jehoram gets sick at age 40, and it took 2 years for him to die of his illness. He died at 42 years old. Remember that? 32 years old was when he began to reign, and he reigned for 8 years. So that means at 40, his reign ended. But did he die at 40? That's the question. We'll find that out shortly. It says he was 32 years old when he began to reign. He ruled for 8 years and he died a dishonorable death. There's two precepts there, 2 Chronicles 16:14 and Jeremiah 34:5. He died a dishonorable death. That's why they said they made no burning for him, because traditionally, when kings and rulers were done, they would burn the sweet scents and the you know what? I don't like misquoting it, but let's look at it real quick. 2 Chronicles 16:14, then we'll read Jeremiah. So 2 Chronicles 16, when it says that they made no burning for him, right? So let's read verse 13 and 14. It says, and Asa slept with his fathers and died in the 41st year of his reign. Now, King Asa was a righteous king. What happened? And they buried him in his own sepulchres, which he had made for himself in the city of David, and laid him in the bed, which was filled with sweet odors and diverse kinds of spices prepared by the apothecary's art, and they made a great burning for him. So the burning was not a cremation. They didn't burn his body. They burned the sweet odors and the spices that was created by the apothecary in honor of his death. Okay, that's how they would lay to death. That's an honorable burial for the for a king, right? Jeremiah 34, verse 5. It says, but thou shalt die in peace. Well, let's read 34 so we can, verse 4, so we can get a clear understanding who it was. Yet hear the word of Yahweh, O Zedekiah, king of Judah. Zedekiah, another righteous king, right? Thus saith the Most High Yahweh, thou shalt not die by the sword, but thou shalt die in peace. And with the burnings of thy fathers and the former kings which were before thee, so shalt thy burn odors for thee. And they shall lament thee, saying, ah, Lord, for I have pronounced the word, thus saith Yahweh. All right. So when we're seeing that Jehoram was when he died from his illness, right? It said they made no burning for him like the burning of his fathers. Why? Because the other righteous kings were buried in honorable fashion. Jehoram, I'll get the name right. He had a dishonorable death. That's why they said they made no burning for him. He wasn't honored by the children of Israel like that, right? It says they buried him in the city of David, but not in the sepulchres of kings. He wasn't even recognized. They didn't even want him recognized amongst the kings because of all the evil that he committed and the hell that he brought on through his actions on our people, right? So next, we got to jump over to 2 Chronicles 22 and 1. This is very important. Very important. Now, this is where we got back to the beginning. Now, it said, excuse me, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, his youngest son, king in his stead. For the band of men that came with the Arabians to the camp had slain all the elders. So Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, reigned. Now, this is important. Why? Because remember, at 40 is when Ahaziah's reign ended. Not necessarily him dying. Because remember, it said it took 2 years for the plague to put him to death. Remember that? Look at this. And it came, verse 19, and it came to pass in the process of time, after the end of 2 years, his bowels fell out by reason of sickness. So he died of sore diseases, and his people made no burning for him. How do we know the 2 Chronicles 22 and 1? Is it meaning that, no, he was 40 when he took over? No, hold on. When you look at the Hebrew word, takah, that means in his stead. So what does it mean when it says that, let's move on. What does it mean when it says the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, his youngest son, king in his stead? So Israel under attack by the Arabians, they're plagued with sickness. The kingdom is in disarray, right? The king is all jacked up, unable to rule. Israel elects Ahaziah to reign in his stead, meaning what? The kaf, meaning the under part beneath, meaning Ahaziah is still, Jehoram is still king by title and by position. However, when he is unable to rule because of his disease and illness, he couldn't be active. So Israel elects his son and says, you reign in his stead. He can't do it. But in his stead means he still was below his father because his father was still alive. You understand? The under part beneath instead of as for the sake of, what was the sake? Why? Because Jehoram was too ill to rule. He jacked up, bowels falling out every day. For 2 years, he's going through it. So at 40, he gracefully bows, not gracefully, but he afflictively bows out and says, I can't do it. Israel seeing it, the nations is taking full advantage. Israel saying, hey, we need a king in his stead. We need somebody that's going to, for the sake of him being unable to rule, get his son up there. You understand? Here's the word as well in the Hebrew. It means below, right? Meaning he still had to maintain a position that was not the king, but an interim king in lieu of, meaning what? Because there's a situation, something had to take place instead of or under or unto, right? So this is important. Now, let's catch up. Jehoram is still alive at 40, but was too sick to rule. Israel elects his son Ahaziah to take over during the war with the Arabians. Jehoram dies 2 years following Ahaziah's interim reign, making Jehoram 42 years old at the time of his death. So Ahaziah comes in as the interim ruler. When his dad is 40, it took 2 years for his dad to pass away before he was inaugurated the actual king. So let's continue. It says this was his father's age, not his. So when we're looking at the 42-year-old mark, that's not Ahaziah's age. That is his father's age. It says the age, I wrote down, the age signifies his father's age at the time of rulership transfer, and Ahaziah is officially made king. Now, let's continue. So when we read verse 2, 40 and 2 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign. Now, this is the Old English, it's not meaning Ahaziah was ruling. When he reigned in the stead of his father was 42 years old when Ahaziah began to reign. All right, it's speaking in context of Jehoram. He was 42 years old when Ahaziah began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri. He also walked in the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother was his counselor to do wickedly. So notice that. If he's a 42-year-old man, is his mama telling him what to do? Is his mama, have to manipulate him and tell him how to rule? Or a young 20-year-old who still needs tutors and counselors to learn how to rule? Does that make more sense? I think that makes more sense. So he gets the keys at 20 as the interim king. He needed 2 years before his father passed away, right? So now it says he reigned for 1 year in Jerusalem. Within that first year, he was walking in the ways of Ahab, and his mother was the counselor. So this is where Athaliah, she's standing in position saying, my son, he's only 20. He's just able to, go to war at this age according to the law. I'm giving him counsel. I'm telling him what to do. And I've got a house of counsel that's teaching him after the ways of my daddy. Make sense? Verse 4, wherefore he did evil in the sight of Yahweh like the house of Ahab, for they were his counselors after the death of his father to destruction. So here he is getting counseled through the wicked counsels of Ahab and his mama at 20, right? 2 years he's getting this tutelage and he's getting this information. Now he's ruling in wickedness and evil. All right. So let's go back. So Ahaziah was 20 years old as an acting ruler. He got counsel for 2 years from the house of Ahab via his mother Athaliah. Remember, it took 2 years for his father Jehoram to pass away. So what's that conclude? That Ahaziah was 22 years old when he came into full reign. So when we're reading the scriptures and you read back at 2 Kings 8, and we read verse 26. 22 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he began to reign. His father was 42 when he died, and Ahaziah came into full reign. All right. Yes. Success. We got it. We got it. All right. Hopefully everybody is able to understand that and the edification is clear. Okay. So without any more confusion, we can understand and see that King Ahaziah was 22 years old when he began to reign. Right. 42 was pertaining to his father. He had an interim rule for 2 years. So he started in at 20. He was getting counsel from his mother and the counsels of Ahab, ruling in wickedness. Right. And then at 22, after his father passed, he was no longer reigning in his stead or instead of or below or beneath or in lieu of, as we just got to seeing, he had full reign. All right. So hopefully that gave some edification. We can kill that one. Lord willing, on the next go around, we'll knock down another one. All right. Want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh Shai. Until the next time.